And what this is doing is it's helping you get to know your own voice, familiarize yourself with your instrument. It's like building a relationship. You're learning about each other. You're understanding how your singing voice as an instrument weaves in with your heart. On the journey of finding your voice, it can be difficult to strike a balance between imitation, matching what you hear, and discovering your own unique sound. You want to embrace your individual artistry, but there's also a lot you can learn by listening, imitating, and deriving inspiration from others. So to help you find that balance, I've compiled these tips. They're going to help you explore your voice, experiment with your sound, and develop your own individual artistry as a vocalist. Welcome to Reawaken Your Voice. Are you tired of pushing aside your desire to sing, only for it to resurface again and again? Hey, I'm Lainey, voice and creativity coach, singer and songwriter. If you're ready to rediscover the freedom of creative expression, free from judgment, doubt, comparison, and fear, then grab that notebook full of ideas. It's time to give voice to the songs in your heart. Let's sing. Hey friend, before we dive into today's episode, I would like to read a review from Katie Rose Buss. She says, "Inspiration meets tranquility. I'm only 2 episodes in and already eager for more. Lainey manifests the confluence of positivity and peacefulness, transfixing you with her lullaby-like delivery of uplifting encouragement. You can feel the sincerity in her every word, every breath. Expect no less from a professional vocalist. As a fellow mother and former performing musician, I look forward to how my own vocal journey may flourish with Lainey's nourishment. Thank you for this gift." And Katie, thank you for this gift. It is such a gift every time I hear from one of you and get to know how this podcast makes a difference in your life. So if you've been listening to the show and found some inspiration or encouragement that is supportive in your own vocal journey, would you please consider leaving a written review on Apple Podcasts? Not only does it help other people find the show and support their vocal journey, but it also lights me up to hear from you and just to know that something is shifting in you, something is moving you, something in my words, in my voice, in the message that I'm sharing is making a difference for you in your vocal journey. So to leave a review of your own, go to Reawaken Your Voice on Apple Podcasts, scroll down to where you see the 5 stars and click Write a Review. Thank you so much. In my own journey to finding my artistic voice, making the transition from opera singer to singer-songwriter involved a lot of vocal exploration. I did a lot of vocal play, imitation, experimentation, matching what I heard from other voices that I admired. It was a lot of trial and error on my own in my flat in Vienna and then beyond. That's where I really got into the nitty-gritty of it, but then it expanded and continued onward from there. And it is an ongoing process because I'm always growing and evolving, but I'm at this place where I know my voice, I know myself, I know what is mine and what comes from my heart. But I'm still on the journey, of course. So it grows and evolves along with me, which is the beauty of the vocal journey. It is like a mirror for the human experience or the just our journey through life, Our voice is right there along with us through it all. Growing, evolving, changing, shifting, opening up, closing up at times. And then we have to figure out how to open and unfurl those petals once again. Or sometimes it's a full cycle of, shedding things and they decay into the soil. And, there was a seed planted from that previous flower and it becomes its own thing. You know how I love my nature metaphors. They just come through every time, don't they? But as I pursued this path of finding my own artistic voice, like I said, it was a lot of trial and error, figuring out what felt right and what didn't feel like a good fit for my voice, what felt like me and what didn't. So basically, I was trying to figure out what my sound was outside of the typical operatic voice, the lyric soprano voice type, the title or the category that I had received in the opera world. And by the way, that wasn't the only one I had received. Yes, lyric soprano, but also lyric coloratura, maybe a dramatic coloratura, maybe a mezzo soprano, a spinto soprano. I heard all kinds of things over the years, which led me to push against it even more. Not that these voice types don't exist on a physical level, but I didn't want to be put in a box. I wanted to find out what made me unique, not what made me fit into a type, a voice type, or what made me like everyone else who had a voice like mine. I wanted to know what made me different, what made me unique, what was it about my voice that was a one-of-a-kind instrument designed and given to me by God. So how did I do that? How did I find my way? Well, there are 3 ways to explore your voice. And it has to be a balance of these 3 ways. And each one, it can exist in different forms. There are different forms of singing along, different forms of doing cover songs, different forms of independent creation. And I'm going to go through each of these with you. But overall, it has to be a balance of all these different things so that you can determine what is yours and what is pure imitation. How can you find the difference between solely imitating another's voice and actually being inspired by that sound, but then weaving it into your own? So let's talk about this. The first way to explore your voice is by singing along. This is where you really lean into imitation or blending your voice, trying to match it to sound like someone else's. Now, one could argue that imitation is the opposite of what we want. Because yes, it takes away from the uniqueness of you. And it's true that no one else has your voice. You're one of a kind instrument. You'll hear me say that. And yes, to a certain degree, it is kind of the opposite of what we want. We don't want to sound like someone else. We want to sound like us. But here's where it can actually benefit you to match what you hear. There's actually a lot you can learn from listening. And in my own training over the decades, this has often been a tip, a tool, a piece of advice that, hey, if you want to know good singing, listen to good singers. Because there's something in that resonance that you can feel in your own body. And if you close your eyes, you can kind of feel where the sound is and how to open it up in your own body. It's an amazing thing you can experiment with, and I encourage you to experiment with this because it's hard to explain. It's more of something you have to experience on your own. But when you're matching what you hear, singing along with a vocalist you admire can be really fun, and also it can help you align with what a good tone quality is. But here's beyond vocal technique, beyond just, the resonance, the sound, the tone quality, the artistic sensibility or the creative flair, the style. That's what I'm going for, like the style. You can also listen to different styles you like, or notice sounds that you wish you could do with your own voice, and try it. Try to imitate these idiosyncrasies or stylistic flares. There's a word here that I can't put my finger on. Maybe you're over there like saying it back to me. It's this word. It's this word. Here's what you mean. Thank you. I'll think of it later. But these textures, the colors, the timbre, the darkness or lightness of a tone quality, the richness of someone's voice, the brightness, how soft it is, how robust it is. You can imitate all of these and find what that feels like in your own voice. Different runs and trills, maybe flips in the voice, like going smooth through the passaggio, or maybe giving it a heavy break and seeing what happens. I know for me, when I was exploring finding my artistic voice, I went from being really smooth through the passaggio, because that's how I was trained. I was trained to smooth out the transition from one part of your voice to another, the low range to the high range. That's that passage in between. I was trained to really smooth that out and blend it so that it was seamless. So as an experiment, I played around with this feeling of what would it be like if I just did a heavy break there and flipped it instead of smoothly blending it. Stuff like that. Playing with your voice to see what it's capable of, what feels good, what doesn't. And that is how imitation can lead to finding your own sound and kind of placing it in your voice and seeing what that feels like, seeing if something like that could fit in with your voice, or if something like that wasn't really your style. You have to play, you have to experiment, you have to explore, and this is a great starting point. From there, another way to explore your voice is through cover songs. I find this is like the bridge between imitation and individuality. So in a cover song, you're singing someone else's song. So in a way that is their creative voice, their artistic voice. They've written the song, or maybe, someone else wrote the song and they're singing it, which we're not going to get into that. But you're singing a song someone else wrote. It's their story, their words, and it's sung in either the songwriter's voice or the voice of another singer. So when you cover the song through your voice, you're making it your own. You're using your own voice to express someone else's story, words, music, melodies. You make it your own. What do you love about how they do it? What do you wish they did instead? What do you hear internally when you listen passively? Or like when you're singing along, your voice wants to naturally go this other way. Like, where do you want to take it? That's the beauty of cover songs, is that it gives you this framework to start with, but then you get to make your own creation out of it. This is the bridge between imitation and individual artistic liberty. So now we've arrived at the third way to explore your voice and find your unique sound. And that is through independent creation. Now, there are different forms of independent creation, but essentially this is quality time with your voice, independent of others. So singing without other voices, without a recording. And what this is doing is it's helping you get to know your own voice. Familiarize yourself with your instrument. It's like building a relationship. You're learning about each other. You're understanding how your singing voice as an instrument weaves in with your heart, your life experiences, your words, your feelings, your emotions, all of these things. Who you are as a person, right? So you're building a relationship with your voice. Well, you have to spend time together. So there are many ways of doing this. Vocalizing in various forms. So vocal play, vocal toning, warm-up exercises. They can be playful. They can be serious and deep and powerful. This can lead to vocal improvisation with another instrument. It can also just be you with your voice. I talk about this one a lot, vocal improvisation, but that's because it is so powerful as a tool to hone your artistic voice. It's a tool for personal expression. It's a tool to access creative flow, to tap into your own creativity, all while getting to know your voice, honing your instrument, learning how to navigate it, understanding how it responds to different approaches. And all of this vocal improvisation leads to my favorite form of independent creation, and that is songwriting. This is the ultimate way of finding your voice, finding your own unique sound, your artistic expression. This is your creative voice coming through your singing voice. And there's something so powerful about blending those together. So when it comes to finding your artistic voice, finding your unique sound, there is a way to use imitation in a way that is beneficial. And yet we don't want to get stuck there in imitation so that we only sound like someone else. We want to find that individuality. We want to find what makes us unique and make it our own. Ultimately, that imitation needs to lead to individual artistic expression. So there needs to be a balance between these three. Number 1, singing along. Number 2, cover songs. And number 3, independent creation. So ask yourself, where are you heavy on one and light on another? You can even make a really pretty little pie chart, pie graph. Is it a chart or a graph? Graph. Chart. And in these 3, you can kind of color in one, label them singing along, cover songs, and independent creation. And then color in each piece of the pie the amount that you use each tool. So, if you're really big on the independent creation, maybe you could try to experiment with singing along and imitating other voices. Or maybe that's all you do is sing along with recordings and imitate what you hear. Try to match the sound of the other singer. Well, what if you tried doing a cover song? So you start with the framework of someone else's song, but then you bring your own voice into it. So like color the pie graph, and you'll have this really pretty visual of where you're lacking, where you're really strong, what needs more attention, and perhaps you'll see a way to balance all three. But ultimately, at the root of it all is developing self-trust. Learning to trust your voice, trust your ear, trust your unique sense of style. And that also means knowing thyself. Hence why I call it a journey. This is your vocal journey. So enjoy the ride. Thanks for listening, friend. If this episode moved you or inspired you in some way, would you please leave a review on Apple Podcasts or share this episode with someone who's been praying for a vocal breakthrough? Until next time, keep nurturing that song in your heart. Lots of love.